What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast, if you're unfamiliar with it, where we talk about anything, everything, and, well, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey, guys, listen, if you're searching for another movie-related podcast where, a couple of people just, kind of gab on about whatever's happening in the world of movie news, and, you don't know which one you want to listen to, and you stumbled across this one accidentally, well, stick around and join the fun. We love talking about them, and hopefully you do too. And if you don't, maybe we can convince you to be one. That's just how persuasive Joel is. He's a mastermind at persuasion. Anyways, if you are new to the show, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. What we typically do is we'll go over some movie news and some trailers that drop throughout the week and commentate on them for you guys, and then we will have a review of, a movie that comes out on Friday, whether it be, a blockbuster, an indie film, a blockbuster, an indie, two indies, two blockbusters. Who knows what we will throw at you, but we try to mix it up a little bit because, we don't want to be like a traditional movie podcast that just focuses all on the blockbusters or even niche podcasts that focus all on the indies. We want to mix it up for you guys because, we love talking about big and small movies. And, of course, the box office results to accompany said movie that we are, talking about, just to see how it correlates with the rest of the country or the world. This is episode 232. My God, we are getting there. So this week is another Memorial Day Disney weekend, as it has been for the past three years now. Last year was Pirates, I believe, and then the year before that was Alice in Wonderland 2, and it's like Disney just has this weekend, game set match for like the next few years, and so they dominated again this weekend with Solo, a Star Wars story. So yes, Disney has two big hit movies out right now with this and Avengers, and of course they got Incredibles coming out in a couple weeks. They're just taking over, guys. Mickey Mouse will be our overlord here pretty soon, so you might as well just get used to it. So we are going to be doing Solo, a Star Wars story, and you're going to get two different perspectives. If you have never come across this podcast before, Joel is the Star Wars fanatic on the team, and I am not. I am a casual fan. I'm okay with that, and I go into every single one of them just kind of expecting whatever. So that's the main topic of discussion today. And speaking of the co-host over there, he is over there, alive and well. Usually when a Star Wars film comes out, Joel is like, it's almost like he has awoken out of like a certain sleep state. He's just been dead for this entire time, and he's like, oh, Star Wars movie, and he kind of arises from the dead, and he just seems like a happy, fruitful gentleman. He's just ready to tackle life, and he just sees everything as just prosperous and beautiful. So Joel, how are we doing this week? And I'm assuming you were just super pumped for another Star Wars fair in theaters.
It's funny. I've been saying a lot in the past few weeks that I don't really have any strong feelings toward the Solo in general. And it's so weird because within the week of it coming out, I was like, oh man, I'm seeing a Star Wars movie in theaters. So it just happens. I mean, it may not have happened as instantaneously for this one as usual, but I was excited to see it. So. In the week coming up to it. Just because it was Star Wars, I didn't really have any strong feelings about the fact that we were getting a Han Solo origin movie. But yeah, it's just how I am. I mean, and Chase is right. I am like sort of a zombie who comes back to life with this stuff. If you saw, Plan 9 from Outer Space, the big dude coming out of the grave near the end of the movie.
That's you.
That's me whenever a Star Wars movie comes out. So, which, hey, It's Star Wars, man. Same thing with Harry Potter. Same thing with Harry Potter.
Yeah. If you think this is not going to happen again, it is. Like after this episode, Joel will go back into cryogenic sleep, and then once Fantastic Beasts 2 comes out, he's going to just arise again. It's Joel, where were you at?
I will say that it might also happen with Mission Impossible.
That's true.
I'm an enormous Mission Impossible fan, so that'll probably. I mean, I'm not super excited for any other movie coming out for the rest of the summer.
Oh, that's a bunch of BS because you except for Mission Impossible 2, fam.
Yeah, Incredibles 2 as well. That'll be another one, but that's not really like an ongoing series. That's more like just Pixar love. But Yeah, I mean, certainly Incredibles 2. We're just a couple of weeks away from it, which is pretty cool. We'll finally be sitting in a theater, you know,
Yeah, finally after 20,000
14
years.
years. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, 3,000 years is more um, accurate to feelings. Um, but yeah, when Mission Impossible and when Fantastic Beasts come out, I'm certain to get that little, uh, chub going, if you will. So,
That's
yeah,
just
it'll
what you do,
be
Joel. That's just what you
yeah.
do, man. But how was your week though? Like, did you watch anything new, or how was work? What's been going on in the Joel life?
Yeah, I actually did. Yesterday was a fairly eventful day. So, in two ways. One, okay, so this takes a little bit of storytelling. Both of these things do.
Joel,
So
we run a podcast. We have time.
I know that's true. So generally speaking, so there's this company, studio that did a lot of home video releases back in the '90s, and then they went out of business in 2004. And I'm wondering if actually you recognize this name. I don't know if you will, but Polygram.
Actually, I do.
Okay, so Polygram did a lot of movies for various companies that also went out of business. It's like one just gigantic go out of business party surrounding this particular studio. And they did distribution for home video back in the 90s and in the early 2000s. And one of those movies that they distributed on video was Drop Dead Fred, which starred Rick Mayall about the imaginary friend that comes back into the adult woman's life and all that. And it's very hard to find because of the fact that Polygram went out of video in 2004, out of business. And so all of the movies that they distributed went pretty much immediately out of print, which means, for the uninitiated, that essentially they lost the rights to the movie. That's what out of print means. So, or they were made to go out of print. Sometimes that happens too, like with Twilight Time. They only make a certain number and then they go away forever. Disney will do the same thing when they put stuff in a vault. That means that they don't make any more copies until they take it, quote unquote, out of the vault. It's out of print until that point. So Drop Dead Fred ended up being one of those movies, and because of that, and because of the fact that it was only a full screen DVD that they made, it basically is now only available on eBay. So at work, I work at a place called Movie Trading Company, and we have a very extensive computer resource. Except for like TV movies, you can pretty much at least find in the system any movie. So at least as long as it's on DVD. VHSs are a little harder to find in the system, although they're still there. So Drop Dead Fred is an eBay item. It's marked as an eBay item in our system. So it has kind of become this sort of legend in our store because like everybody seems to want this movie, even though it's really hard to find. So at any given store, there will be like an extended request list for this movie. So whenever the movie comes in, we put a little sticker on it with the person's name. We call them, and if they don't come in within 3 days, we move on to the next person. And I think it's still several people long. So I was able to, because one of my coworkers actually has a copy of the DVD, I was able to get a burned copy of that DVD and watch it. So it's just a really cool thing. I know that that's totally inside, literally me, because I'm probably the only one listening to this who works at the store. But it's just like it became kind of this legend, and so to finally be able to watch the movie was really cool, and it's prompted me this past week to that the existence of that and the existence of a few other eBay items has prompted me to really want to start collecting out of print DVDs, and so I'm gonna be starting that pretty soon. I'm making lists, extensive lists on my phone, like just looking through my my company's system, and then I'm gonna go to like thrift shops and Goodwills because those are really good places to find this stuff. It's literally the only market for some of this stuff to be found, so it's just really cool. The other thing was that again, I work at Movie Trading Company, and the title is you can trade movies in. You can sell them to us for cash and all that, or store credit. And so, generally speaking, like a big buy, that's what we call them when we have somebody coming in to sell stuff. A big buy, it could be like 200 items, right? a really huge buy could be something like 600 items. So yesterday, we're in the midst of a sale weekend, and this was like arranged in advance through the proper authorities at the store. But somebody is selling their entire collection because they're moving. So it has resulted in a 2,500 item buy that is going to be an ongoing project for the next several days at work. So that was super eventful. I don't think that there has been a buy that big for a movie trading company. Honestly, I can't think of any store that would do that, and we're like a medium-sized store. So I think that it's going to completely replenish our shelves, honestly, because just kind of glancing at this guy's, I can't for legal reasons I can't really tell you what he would have, but just based on what I've seen he has, it's pretty insane. So because we're going to have stuff on our shelves after this that we haven't had, we just haven't had it. So anyway, it's pretty cool. So yesterday was very eventful because of all of that. I watched Drop Dead Fred, and then there was this huge buy. So anyway, and also back to Drop Dead Fred, it's actually a really good movie. It has this weird reputation for being awful, and I think it was because critics didn't like it. I think Gene Siskel had it as his pick for the worst movie of 1991 or something, called it one of the worst movies he's ever seen. But I really liked it. It's very sweet. There's a lot of really goofy stuff that goes on in the movie, but it's in a very sweet, sincere way. And anyway, so if you can find it, I think it's on iTunes for those who don't care about physical media. It's on iTunes, but other than that, physically, you can't find that movie very many places except for eBay. And if you own the movie and don't like it or want to sell it for some reason, you could probably get $80 for that. It's a pretty high priced item. And on the subject of Polygram, there are other movies from them that are like that. In fact, I think the most expensive probably is Panther, which is a drama about the formation of the Black Panther Party from 1995. I think it has an insane cast, including I believe Ike Turner's in it or something like that. It's crazy. In fact, yeah, I think it's Ike Turner and also Angela Bassett, who played Tina Turner in the movie about Tina Turner and Ike Turner. Anyway, both of them are in it, and I think it goes for $200 on eBay. So it's just these. It's really cool to find out what. I mean, it's kind of sad too, but to find out what's lost kind of to time and to being, going out of print and all that. It's really interesting. So anyway, that was the most eventful thing in my week. What about you, Chase?
Well, obviously I don't work at a really cool job like you do. I work with a bunch of cops, so it's basically just working in a locker room for 8 hours a day. But, I did have a pretty eventful week on Netflix and watching older movies. My girlfriend and I, we go all over the place. We'll watch older stuff. We'll watch stuff on Netflix. We'll watch newer stuff. So this week was pretty fascinating. We jumped from rewatching Austin Powers 2 and 3, and we also finished Season 2 of 13 Reasons Why, as well as me doing a solo watching of The Ritual on Netflix. And I gotta tell you, The Ritual was pretty good. It was solid. It reminded me of The Witch. It was very atmospheric, slow burn type of horror. Really kind of beautiful fairy tale cinematography. It was just kind of creepy but also alluring at the same time. And then 13 Reasons Why Season 2, I think we both agreed that it's not as good as the first one, but it's solid. There's a lot of interesting twists and turns, and my one big issue with it, and I will say it now out in the public so that way you guys can spread this around. Hopefully Paramount is listening to this because they're the ones that distribute the show. These kids are in their mid-20s and even late 20s, and they're still playing 17-year-olds. There is one guy in the show who actually had a prominent role in this season, and he is my age. I am 28 years old. I am 4 months older than this guy, and he's playing 17. Just stop it. They don't look like they're 17. It bugs the hell out of me. if they're doing a third season, which they obviously are, just wrap it up. Please, for the love of God. He is going to be 30 years old in a year and a half, and it's not going to look good. Just stop it.
Sort of like when Rupert Grint was 17 while filming Goblet of Fire when Ron was 14.
Oh, I know. It's so weird. And like even some of the kids on the show, like they look older than their age actually is, and so they might be 25 in real life, but they look even older than that. And so just guys, I like the show, but please wrap it up. Like the older they get, the worse it looks. So yes, season 2 solid. I still like the first season better, but it's a very fascinating kind of update on the Degrassi formula, if you will. And like I said, I like the ritual; it was solid. And then, of course, just rewatching Austin Powers, man. I cannot believe this day. I realized there was a large gap between the sequel and the threequel, but man, they should have tapped on that Austin Powers 4 shortly after instead of doing the Love Guru. I mean, I love those movies so much. And Mike, if you're listening to this, buddy, I realize that you're starting to get back into film with all these smaller roles and stuff, and you have been for a while, but if you could just like make a fourth one, I don't even care if it's just like mediocre. I just want to see it. I just want to get back into like that crazy spoof world, and especially since it actually makes sense, given the climate of James Bond now. James Bond has been more popular than it ever has been with the Daniel Craig reiteration. So why don't we do an updated Austin Powers? I mean, it makes sense marketing wise, but hey, I'm just some guy bitching about movies in his room, so whatever. But that was my week. Pretty chill. And then of course I saw Solo yesterday, and I will get into my experience about that before we start the movie. But Joel, there was some interesting casting stuff.
I was just going to comment on some of the stuff that you just said. So,
no.
Was it okay? I wasn't a huge fan of the ritual. I felt like it kind of reduced itself to a lot of showy stuff at the end in a way that The Witch did not for me. But I will say with 13 Reasons Why, I watched the first episode, most of the first episode. I didn't even finish it because I was just tired, and I was like, you know what, I don't have time for this. And I got to say, I understand that maybe like it changes a few episodes in or something, but, and I'm not talking about a plot hook here. I don't see the reason for its existence, because I think that basically it's recycle, or at least on the basis of that first episode, it's recycling the first season. It's making them just comment on exactly what they experienced the first time.
It basically is a kind of wash and repeat situation.
Yeah, and I'm just not interested in that. I want to see more. I want to see new stuff with the characters. And every single second spent watching all but like the last 13 minutes of that first episode, I was just like, I'm watching the same thing over. I'm seeing them reflect on exactly what they reflected on. And so yeah, I might continue it at some point, but I love the first season, but I don't see the reason for this. And there's the fact too, I mean, it's undeniable that there's been a lot of people saying this. It's a movie about mental illness for people who don't have it. And there's a lot of really like sketchy stuff that they're trying to say, and through the message, through the way they say it is just, it's very it wants to shock you a lot, and I get that it worked for the first because it was based on a book that kind of did the same thing, but now they have a second season. I just don't see it. I just don't see the reason for it. But in any case, yes, we do have a lot of very interesting news that has cropped up this week. I guess I'll go ahead and jump in. So there's been a bit of casting going on. So I'm just looking here, making sure I got them all. Okay. Just kind of quick tidbits. Jake Gyllenhaal has been tapped to play the villain in Spider-Man Homecoming 2. I really hope that that's not the official title. Anyway, it's going to be Mysterio. So this will be interesting to see, because I think that this is going to be the only big budget blockbuster type movie that Gyllenhaal will have been in since The Day After Tomorrow, which is 14 years ago. Because Source Code doesn't really count. It's more like one of those '90s era mid-budget thrillers that happens to have a lot of really good visual effects. It's not so, it's high concept, but it's not so like big budget kind of event movies. So this will be really interesting to see him in this context after 14 years or so of smaller roles. And then we also have John Wick 3 adding a lot of cast members. Halle Berry was already added a few years ago. Wow, few weeks ago. But now there's going to be Angelica Houston as the director. It's going to be interesting to see that character finally. An actress named Asia Kate Dillon, who is on Billions. I don't know her. She's going to be a member of the High Table. Jason Mantzoukas from as in what was his name on Parks and Rec? Oh, it'll come to me anyway. Dennis Feinstein from Parks and Rec, the dangerous cologne guy.
Joel, he will always be known as Rafi from The League. It's all about Rafi. Like that was him.
I haven't seen The League, so and then Mark Dacascos, and they're also adding a couple of Raid actors and Tiger Hu Chen. So this is going to be pretty cool. I'm looking forward to a third one, and it's hitting theaters next year. And then the final one was Liam. Oh no, not the final one. There are two more. Liam Neeson apparently is going to be filling the older man role. I think a few weeks ago we covered there's a couple of actors already. Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are already attached to Men in Black, the spin-off movie. And there was going to be a third actor, an older man, and it apparently is going to be, or he's in talks for it, Liam Neeson. So that'll be an interesting trio. And, for director F. Gary Gray of The Fate of the Furious and Straight Outta Compton, and so forth. And then the most interesting one, this is very interesting. So Annapurna is going to be doing a movie about the sexual harassment scandal involving Fox News, which most prominently involved Megyn Kelly and Gretchen Carlson. And Megyn Kelly has been cast. It's going to be Charlize Theron. And so that's interesting casting. I think that she actually works quite well. There's a lot of physical similarities. They're sort of around the same age. I think Megyn Kelly is 5 years older or so. And then it'll be interesting to see who they get for Gretchen Carlson. But it's going to be Jay Roach directing it. Now he doesn't do super well with true story dramas. I liked Recount quite a bit. His movie about the election scandal in 2000. But Game Change, the movie about Sarah Palin, was kind of weak, I thought. And then I hated Trumbo, and that was the one about Dalton Trumbo with Bryan Cranston. One of the least worthy Oscar nominations of all time, in my opinion. And I hate saying that about Bryan Cranston. But in any case, I'm not super duper, psyched about the fact that it's Jay Roach directing. He's a better comedy director, I think. But this will be interesting in any case. I think that the material certainly lends itself well to being a story. And I was actually wondering when they would do this, honestly. It's just a matter of when to me. And so, yeah, it's probably going to happen next year because they're releasing that Dick Cheney movie this year. They probably won't want to have two movies about, kind of the two real life movies or whatever. But in any case, I'll certainly be interested to see Charlize Theron in this kind of role. And then, of course, I'm just very interested in seeing who they get to play Gretchen Carlson. So, what are your thoughts about all this, Chase?
I mean, it's a lot to take in, but starting up at the top with Jakey G, this is kind of his show because we got two trailers with him that we're about to talk about. But on one hand, I like what they're doing, getting these kind of like Oscar calibrated actors, and they got Michael Keaton to play the Vulture in the first one. They could possibly get Gyllenhaal for this one. My only issue with this, and this is kind of the issue I had with with like the Dark Knight Rises, or even something as terrible as Amazing Spider-Man 2, when you put Paul Giamatti in a suit and you cover up his face, is that when you have a character that relies on so much, costume and, helmetry and all that stuff, and you put a really great actor in it, it's almost like you're trying to dilute him a little bit. I don't know, maybe they'll modify the suit, but Mysterio has a giant, almost like, kind of like a glass helmet around his head. I don't know much about the character, but just seeing the designs that I have seen, it's going to cover him up. And that's the only thing I'm worried about, is that you're going to take someone of that talent and, just kind of, dilute him a little bit.
It's sort of like with Oscar Isaac.
Exactly. Within
in X-Men Apocalypse, yeah. Which I've watched that movie multiple times, and I still kind of like it, but I like him less and less every time.
Yeah, I love that movie, but one of the weaker spots for me in Apocalypse was Oscar Isaac, and it's not because of him, it's not his fault, but it was the way he was directed and the way he was covered up in like 2 tons of makeup.
It looked like he was honestly not in physical pain, but sort of like an existential pain, like he wanted to be anywhere else.
I know,
then.
he's just like, I'm under contract.
He looked so bored and completely uninterested. It works because it's a fun like hangout movie with the other people kind of, but he's the weak spot. So
and that's the problem when you have. I mean, that's actually you bring up a good point. When you have like these amazing people being these comic book movies, you're either going to have people that take it seriously, or you have them like Oscar Isaac that kind of walk through, and you're thinking like who recently has done it in a serious manner outside the MCU. One of my favorite ones has always been when Fassbender plays Magneto in the X-Men films. That guy gives it his all. Like, he is the type of guy that no matter what movie he's in, whether it's blockbuster or indie film, he always gives it 110%, and I always adore that. So it is possible, but I'm just worried about the whole costume thing with Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm totally with you. It doesn't make sense to call it Spider-Man Homecoming 2 because Homecoming is a subtitle. It is a subtitled Spider-Man, so a sequel subtitle does not make sense. Just stop it. As far as the John Wick 3 thing goes, excellent. I love that franchise. I think the second one's even better than the first one. It is one of the best action franchises that I always look forward to. I love the story. I love the kind of world building that they have within this, kind of set, kind of tight universe of assassins and just villains, and it's so great. And Halle Berry is always fun to watch. Angelica Houston's always fun when she pops up and stuff. I nothing more to say. John Wick 3, you can put anyone in it and I will still watch it. As far as Liam Neeson and Men in Black, that's cool, I guess. I mean, we really need to see this movie in action, in motion, and we need to see it actually in physical form before we even comment on it, because I like the fact that Hemsworth and Thompson are coming back from their Ragnarok days and teaming up again, and it could be a fun ride. I know you are one of the admirers of the third one, right? So I mean, like, there are people if it can be more like the first and third and less like the second, that would be great. Oh God, anything could be more. Any movie, if you can just not be Men in Black 2, you're doing a good job.
That movie is awful.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's not good. Liam Neeson joining it, cool. I mean, I like the guy. But I really need to see either a trailer or pictures, just anything, before I can really even comment on the movie. But I think the cast so far sets up for some promising stuff. You know what? I thought the Jake Gyllenhaal and Spider-Man thing would be great, or even the John Wick 3 news. I love the Charlize Theron playing Megyn Kelly story. I like that so much, because you're right. They almost look similar, and Theron's such a great actress that she can do anything. And I've always been fascinated with scandals and true life crime stories. I just love that type of stuff. Just to watch like evil parts of society like just go down in flames. I love that stuff. And her playing Megyn Kelly is really great. I'm kind of with you. I want to see who they're going to get to play the other news anchors, and all this, like who? The bigger
I mean,
question,
they're gonna have to have a lot of them in there because it was within the Fox News, headquarters and the offices that a lot of this stuff happened.
Well, Joel, I have to ask you a more important question. Who is going to have the balls to step up and play Roger Ailes?
Man, that's a really good question.
Who's going to have like the balls to put that on their resume?
I mean, this is literally the same thing as asking who would have the balls to play Bill Cosby in a Bill Cosby movie. Who would have the balls to play
Topher Grace is playing David Duke, by the way, in BlacKkKlansman. So
yeah, I mean,
possible.
Exactly. Speaking of other kinds of improprieties, and yeah, I mean, it's gonna be insane to see who.
I'm just like, who is gonna tackle?
And
that
it's also
role?
a great screenwriter. I forgot to mention this, Charles Randolph, who co-wrote The Big Short, but he's also a documentary filmmaker.
Nice.
He did Inside Job about the big, the failure of the banks and all that. He's a really good screenwriter.
I actually think the style, like the visual style and cinematography of The Big Short, would actually work really well for this Fox
yeah,
story.
it kind of makes me bummed that they didn't just have Adam McKay move from back seat to this, because that would be great. But yeah, I mean, your question of who will play Ale, I mean, I don't know. somebody in prosthetics.
Yeah, I don't know. Cover up their face, please.
like that guy, Damian Lewis, who's like as skinny as a pole, is playing what's his name? He actually is having to wear like a big fat suit. He looks nothing like the guy. Who is it? Hold on, Damian. I'm gonna look this up. Rob Ford.
Yeah, that's right. I heard about that.
He was the one from that video where he makes the gaffe about eating something. Let's just say that. There's this really, really funny video. It's actually like on WatchMojo.com, the YouTube channel. They have this like top 5 most awkward live TV moments, and one of them involves Rob Ford. And you'll just have to go watch it. It's not suitable for families, but it's really, really funny. And they have this guy playing him who looks nothing like him, and he's really skinny. Like this, they put an entire. It's bizarre. So, in any case, it's just interesting to see who they get to play these people. Who's going to have the balls to do that? I mean, certainly. At some point, I assume I'm pretty sure it's been announced that there's going to be like a Harvey Weinstein series or something.
Oh God, who's going
to play Harvey Weinstein? It's just and also like, are they going to have to vet every single actor who goes in to audition for these roles? Because
I know, right?
Dude, they don't want anybody who's actually been involved in some of these cases to play these people, right? I just have to think that would be probably the worst thing ever to happen.
That would be the literal definition of irony, and it would be so weird.
And it would be a terrible irony, but it would be irony, yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they get to play Ailes, because that's crazy, man. Rest in something other than peace, sir.
Definitely not peace, but that's all Joel and I will say, because this is not a political podcast.
Right? No, yeah. All right, so the next bit of news, this is very interesting, and it's actually a good thing, I think. Transformers 6 or 7 or whatever number it is has been pulled. This is not the Bumblebee movie. That one's still coming out this December. But there was another one that was slated to come out within the next 6 months, and it has been pulled. So now it looks like, to me, that they're doing a reboot of the series. So this next Bumblebee movie is going to be like, basically, within the I guess the canon of the previous several movies, but they're going to be probably like, pivoting toward another series, rebooting, I'm sure that they're going to redesign the characters and just take a different approach. But honestly, I'm kind of happy. I wish that they would just kind of give it up, honestly, not do that. But they're clearly going to try to have to do this, in tandem with G.I. Joe and Micronauts and Dungeons and Dragons. These And then there's something else. Apparently, I don't. It doesn't have a title yet, but there's something else from them that's been they've set a release date, but we don't know what it is. Anyway, I'm thinking that they're probably going to try to do a Hasbro cinematic universe. That's what I'm guessing, is that they're going to try to tie all these in together. I don't know how they'll do that with Dungeons and Dragons, but whatever. Anyway, I'm kind of happy about this. I'm just not a fan of these movies, and I think that unless Bumblebee changes my mind, I doubt that I'll care that coming up on June 2019 that there was going to be a movie coming out anyway. So it's just kind of whatever to me. So what about you? Are you pretty much pretty well shut of these movies?
If you go back to our review of the Last Night last year, you will probably get a sense of exhaustion in both of our voices because we were just tired of talking about this franchise. This makes total sense. If you look at the numbers and the projection of the box office, the sequel and the third installment both made $1 billion worldwide. Oh no, excuse me. The third one and the fourth one made $1 billion worldwide. Which it still blows my mind. Now the fifth one did not do that. However, those are worldwide numbers. If you look at the domestic numbers from the second one to the fifth one, the second one I think topped out at 407. It was one of the highest grossing movies domestically for the longest time. Revenge of the Fallen is just something else. When you have John Turturro pointing out robot balls, you just know you're in deep water. Then the third one was a little bit below that. It was 380 or something like that. The fourth one dropped by nearly $100 million domestically. Then the fifth one dropped even more. So weirdly enough, this franchise is growing more popular overseas while people here are just I'm tired of this garbage. This makes total sense to pull it off the schedule, reboot this thing, get a different visionary behind it. I like Michael Bay in certain aspects and certain films when he's used appropriately, but this is just not one of them. They just get exhausting after a while, and I just think if you get fresh eyes, it's going to be, be a lot different. And the thing with Bumblebee is we're going to get fresh eyes, so we're going to see what a Transformers movie is like under a different director. And now if it looks the same or whatever, then we'll be like, okay, they just need to reboot it and just kind of go in a way different direction, whether it be animated or just something. Because Paramount's pretty desperate at this point. They have a couple hits here and there, and they're happy with some stuff like, A Quiet Place or maybe even Cloverfield films or, Mission Impossible. But they are struggling to find a franchise that sticks with them. And Transformers was that for a while, but it's going into oblivion, so they need to kind of just start fresh, Joel. Just start fresh.
Yeah, pretty much, and they also need to move Bumblebee. I know that they've already moved it, but it's coming out the same week as Alita: Battle Angel and Aquaman. So same day, actually, I think. So, or within the week or whatever. Yeah, they need to move that because it's based on the downward trajectory of the previous movies. It's not going to do very well against any competition. I don't think it's just not good business sense for them to keep it there, but. Yeah, we'll see about Bumblebee, or maybe we won't. I don't know. It's will I see that in theaters? Will we have more important things to cover?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully we will. Hopefully Alita and Aquaman are more interesting, or whatever. As they come up. So, whatever the case, this next bit of news is actually one of my favorite bits. Probably my favorite bit. This or the Charlize Theron as Megyn Kelly thing. So. Y'all probably don't know this. I don't even know if Chase knows this, but one of my favorite Disney animated movies in general, of any era where they were making movies, is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's darker and more adult than the others, and you just and to know that, you literally just need to listen to the soundtrack, which we play at work a lot, and it's full of a lot of innuendo and adult themes. It's great, and the movie is terrific. And we're gonna be getting a new version. Now, this is not going to be technically the same thing as what Beauty and the Beast has been, but because it's going to be working from the Victor Hugo novel rather than the Disney movie. Although there's going to be music in this one, so Idris Elba, who has a lot of stuff coming up. He directed that movie Yardy. We talked about that trailer a while ago. He's got a Netflix comedy series coming up, Turn Up Charlie. I'm interested in watching that. And then he's going to be moving on to this, just for the uninitiated, the 6 people who haven't seen the movie. It talks about a hunchback named Quasimodo. He falls in love with a gypsy girl named Esmeralda. And kind of contends with the kind of the owner and proprietor of the building that he's housed in. And I'm interested to see this. I think that Idris Elba is a great talent. It'll be interesting to see him as Quasimodo. Now, I assume he's playing Quasimodo. I don't think that it's been confirmed. He could be playing. What's his name? Man, my brain is it's fried after yesterday. Sorry, guys. I'm going to find out the name of the character and then... Okay. Oh, no. Gummit. There we go. The character's name is Frollo. I think. Pretty sure it's Frollo. Anyway, yeah, I'm very interested to see a new version of this story told. Especially considering they're working more specifically from the book, and then I think this just writing new music. That's what I'm suspecting. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see this take shape and all that. Are you excited, Chase?
Yeah. I totally lost my train of thought for a second. No. When we covered that Yardy trailer, anytime when and we're about to get to it with one of the trailers, is that when you have an actor transition to a director's chair, you want to have like a nice, solid, meaty debut where you can go, I'm gonna put all my heart out on this project and just really just make a solid movie. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. It can be, but if you just want to kind of prove your worth, just make something really solid to have people remember it by and be like, wow, that was a great directorial debut. It kind of reminds me of like when I saw Don John, and I was like, hey, that was a solid debut from good old Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I was like, you know what? It just grow as a filmmaker and get better.
He got Tony Danza to be in a movie. Okay,
exactly. It's like, hey, listen, when you're in the biz, Joel, you can make magic happen.
In the most perfect father-son pairing of all time. Anyway,
it's so great. But with this is great news. Ever since, I don't think Joel knows this, and I never told you guys this. At least I don't know. Listen, folks, just on a side note, I've done 232 episodes. The only person that actually knows what I said back in the day is Joel. Because he's listened to past episodes. I don't listen to them unless there's like a technical issue, and so I don't know what I've said. And can you blame me? We've done a lot of these episodes, but what I have always liked about Idris Elba is this. When I first saw him as an actor on screen, I was like, this is the type of actor that's going to transition. He's going to be a transitioner, and he's going to go into the director's chair at some point, and I can't wait to see it. And, of course, Joel and I have not seen Yardy yet, so we don't know how that's going to go. But it sounds like that's got some promising, prospects, because that premiered at Sundance. It obviously got bought up, so people have faith in it. And I'm thinking that word of mouth is spreading around town. And so now Netflix is wanting to get on the Idris Elba game, like with what you said with his series. And now with the potential of doing this sounds great. I'm with Joel. If I had to pick a top 5, I don't know where it would land, but I absolutely love the Hunchback movie, and it is definitely darker than your traditional Disney animated, musical fare. It is terrifying stuff, but that is the whole point, of the movie. I mean, when we're dealing with discrimination and all that stuff, you want to kind of take it to like that more adult level, and you don't want to kind of foo-foo it because it's just going to get lost with its messaging. But with him tackling this, I'm all down for it. I have nothing more to say just because I don't know what Yardy is going to look like or even how it's going to respond with us. But I think just seeing the momentum of Idris as a filmmaker now gets me excited because we got, his debut coming up. We got this coming up, his series. So it sounds like he's actually going to make more of a dent as a filmmaker than an actor, because the sad reality is, as much as, Joel and I love the man, or you guys might like him as an actor, he has never hit it with audiences, ever, like box office wise. And you can't count when he's hemmed out in the Thor films or the Avengers films, because those are given. You want to talk about anything outside of big blockbusters, he has never connected with audiences. The Dark Tower movie didn't do really well. When he's in smaller films, they don't do particularly well. I know he's really popular in his home country overseas, and that's why Luther is so big over there. What else was I going to say? That's what I was going to say. And transitioning over, to Netflix, he has found a home, because he did be a part of Beast of No Nation, which he did not direct, but he was in. He actually got nominated for that role for a Golden Globe. So he's got a nice relationship with Netflix, and so I think if he just keeps that up, he could create some magic. And I'm looking forward to a live-action retelling of Hunchback.
Yeah, for sure. I pretty much have the same feelings as you. We don't know, how good he is as a director. I'm sure that he's very skilled, but we just don't know yet. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So I'm gonna jump forward, at least in terms of our notes, to the technically what was the last bit of news.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, please, Joel, give it to the audience. What is this craziness that is happening?
Okay. Oh my gosh, I hate the world sometimes. Okay, so the Sesame Street creators have decided.
Please do this with a straight face, Joel. I want you to actually read the headlines.
I cannot. I cannot do it. All right, so the Sesame Street creators have filed a lawsuit against Styx Entertainment because they believe that the Happy Time Murders, which features a little thing in the trailer that says "No Sesame, All Street," tarnishes the Sesame Street brand, and so they have filed a lawsuit. Okay, I really only have one feeling about this. I mean, I have a bunch of feelings, but most of them are curse words, not suitable for children. But the biggest thought I have is get over yourself, Sesame Street creators. Who cares? Oh my gosh, it's art. Let them do their thing. It's not gonna tarnish the brand. Kids are not gonna know that this exists because they're not gonna play the trailer in front of kids' movies. So they're not gonna. I mean, they're not gonna know, at least by the attempts by the studios to know that it exists. I'm sure that they'll find out by their own means. But in any case, there's no direct correlation. There's no overlap here. Just stop. Just stop it. Stop it. All right, that's my only thought.
Joel, as a very expert puppeteer, I was super offended when Team America came out, and I just could not believe that puppets were having sex and throwing up all over the place. It was just ridiculous. Here's the deal, folks. Sesame Street, you are on a platform where softcore porn is on. You cannot sit there and be like, well, this movie's going to tarnish the brand. You are literally on HBO right now. There is porn on there. I can literally go to my app right now, and you can watch anything from Sesame Street to I'm trying to think of some of the titles that my girlfriend and I were browsing across. We didn't watch any, but we always laugh at the titles. It was something like The Babysitter's Home Part 3 or something like that. It's like, that's literally on the same app. So I do not want to hear it.
Chase, by mentioning them in the same sentence, you're tarnishing their brand.
I am
you don't want to get
brand.
You don't want to get sued, do you?
they can get over it. It's just that's so stupid. Did I hear Pixar or any animated companies suing Sausage Party because it tarnishes their brand? No, they don't care. They're just like, okay, cool, you're making an R-rated animated movie about food orgies. Who cares?
Co-directed by the guy who did the Kung Fu Panda movies, and he never heard anything from DreamWorks about that.
Yeah, it's so stupid. Like, here's the deal with Happy Time Murders. As much as I like it, as much as Joel likes the trailer, I gotta be honest with you guys, because I'm gonna throw some reality at you. This movie is either gonna bomb or be a hit. There's going to be no middle ground. It's going to either really hit well with people or it is going to crash and burn. And so if it crashes and burns, there you go, Sesame Street. It doesn't tarnish anything. If it's a huge hit, go cry about it elsewhere. But why are you suing? Like, you could, I understand, like, if you're a creator and you want to bitch about stuff, that's what Twitter's for. Just do your thing. But suing and taking this into a lawsuit is one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard of. That's all I gotta say. But once again, say it with me. You are literally on an app and a service that has porn on it. And you didn't complain about that when HBO bought up your rights to distribute it. So just shut up. Please shut up.
All right. Speaking of shutting up. All right. This next bit of news I have rather surprisingly conflicted feelings about, but mostly dismissive. So, in the wake of a Han Solo origin movie, there's obviously been kind of rumors about what the next one's going to be. There was the rumor that we were going to get a Lando one until apparently that was a misunderstanding. There was the rumor about an Obi-Wan Kenobi one, and that one might actually be happening, but apparently the next one that we're going to get is a Boba Fett movie. Now, okay, before I get to who directed it, who's going to direct it, guys, we know the origin of Boba Fett. It's canon. The series has been treating the prequels like canon. As much as people don't want them to, they're canon. So we know that Boba Fett came about because his father's head was chopped off by Samuel L. Jackson. That's what happens. We know the origin. There's literally nothing else interesting about that character. There's no thing that is not part of the series already that anybody needs to know about Boba Fett. It's the most useless thing I've ever heard. Now, if they have to make a movie about him, then sure, the director that they're apparently hiring is probably one that people would want, considering the movie he just did. Now he's also about to be coming off a Ford versus Ferrari movie, but it's James Mangold who directed Logan. He has a really good relationship with Simon Kinberg, who of course has been attached to this for a long time. So clearly, he's got a good relationship. But do we need this movie? We absolutely do not need this movie. Please, please, Disney, do not make Fett a Star Wars story. Nobody needs it. And yeah, that's pretty much my feeling.
Joel, so, I get really irritated when you spread false news on this podcast. It's going to be called Boba, a Star Wars story. What the hell?
No,
what is this?
It's definitely going to be. It's going to be Fett because they have.
It's called Boba, Joel.
No,
Boba is a more successful title. It's so stupid. Listen.
The movie this week would then have been called Han, a Star Wars story. I'm just saying they would. Hilarious. That would have been pretty funny. Yeah.
Listen, I could care less about this. I mean, listen, if you want to make spin-off Star Wars movies about, the guy that said I need to go to the bathroom on the Starship Enterprise or whatever the hell it's called. I have no clue. That's Star Trek. Whoops. Hey, listen. As you can tell, I'm not really a fan of this, but I do appreciate when they come out because it makes people happy. Whatever. Listen, Kathleen Kennedy. If you are listening, I'm gonna say this once, and I will stop saying it because I think most people are thinking it. When Lucasfilm bought Star Wars, when Disney bought Lucasfilm for $4 billion, I knew that deep down they were going to try to milk it as much as possible. It's the way it goes. It's business. I just want them to make good movies within this universe. I want them to try different things. I want them to expand the universe and stop shrinking the damn thing. so far, we have a continuation of the episodic storylines, and we've had Rogue One, which focuses on a small time frame before A New Hope. Now we have Solo, which is a prequel of a character that we already know, and now Boba Fett, same deal. It's like, stop shrinking this universe. Do stuff like The Last Jedi. I do not care what people say online. This is my viewpoint on it. I think it is the best thing in the Star Wars franchise. I absolutely love that thing because it went so radically off the tracks that I was actually intrigued by not only the filmmaking on a technical side, but also a story standpoint. Do stuff like that. When you start going back to, characters that just we already know enough about, it just seems so pointless. And you're going to hear me talk about when we get to Solo, but unless you're going to bring something new to the table and explore someone and make it, like we understand this character a little bit more, then don't do it. If it's just going to be, a character that we all know slapped inside of a movie and they go on a little adventure and that's it, that doesn't do it for me. If you're going to do a prequel, we need to know, more about this character that we never knew about, and it changes, kind of our perspective on them a little bit and how they grew up or how they changed. If it doesn't do any amount of changing of any character, then what is the point? And stop, like I said, stop shrinking. Please expand. There's so much more out there, whether you want to talk about the books or the comics, the television shows, whatever. Star Wars is so much more massive than the same 5 characters that you keep going back to. Just stop it. We are so close from Kathleen Kennedy going, well, you know what? We'll just make a Jabba the Hutt film and have him eat a bunch of squigglies or whatever the hell the creatures are called that he eats. I don't even know. Does he eat creatures, Joel? I just imagine that Jabba the Hutt just eats like raccoons like on his throne all day and just like, you do this. I'm such a gangster. And then he just like throws stuff at people.
We do see him though in the I think it's Phantom Menace when he's overseeing the pod race. He's got these little critters around him, and he eats them. So certainly he does eat like pet type things. I'm sure. So
I was just joking. And so you see my point, though. It's just like it's just so dumb. We don't know about these people. Joel, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with this, man. It's just oh god. Okay, one last thing, because I've seen it a lot online the past couple of days, and I would like to kind of reiterate people's points. The reason why the MCU works is because we have movies that can stand on their own, but also be tied into this larger storyline. And it seems planned out. It seems like they took time and passion and care into it. What Lucasfilm, to me, is doing, besides the episodic films for their separate Star Wars stories, they're just going back to the well. And they're not wanting to do anything more. And they're playing it safe and just not really wanting to do anything different. And I'm just like, please continue on that path of The Last Jedi. If we keep doing stuff like Solo and Boba, the Star Wars story, or Jabba or Obi-Wan, like just stop, dude. I can't stand it, Joel. I really cannot stand it.
All right, well, let's move on to our trailers for the week. We have some really interesting ones this week, but we're going to start out with the least interesting one, and that is Mowgli. This is the second in 3 years movie about the Jungle Book story. It's literally the same exact story that we just saw in 2016's The Jungle Book. Comes out in October, I believe. And yeah, it looks visually stunning, of course, because it's Andy Serkis directing, and he's obviously the the king of mocap right now, and everybody's mocapped here. We have Christian Bale, Benedict Cumberbatch, Cate Blanchett, Andy Serkis himself is going to be Baloo, although we don't see him in this trailer, which I thought was interesting considering we see everyone else. Yeah, honestly, I mean, it looks great visually speaking, although I think that the color palette's kind of one note. I could not be less interested in this, and maybe it's because of the fact that we just got the Jungle Book, and I loved that movie. I think it's great, but I could not care less. This movie, I just don't think that we need it. I don't think it looks very interesting. I guess it's gonna be slightly neat to see the kid from Bad Words in a movie again, but because Rohan Chand is Mowgli in this case, but it kind of looks soapy too in terms of the emotions that Circus is going for. Because I felt that the Jungle Book actually kind of approached it in sort of in very much a kind of sincere way, rather than just being kind of melodramatic. This looks like it's piling on the melodrama to me. So yeah, I couldn't be less interested in this, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of those trailers where you go, wow, I'm having like deja vu, like Vietnam flashbacks. It's just, I feel like we just got the Jungle Book. And
Yeah.
it's just insane that, because this isn't new. I mean, Joel and I pretty much grew up in like the time frame of like when studios would, battle each other and do stuff within the same year. And of course, this is a couple years apart, but still, it's like, back in the day, you had like Deep Impact, Armageddon, then you had Volcano and Dante's Peak, and then, Babe, and then Gordy or whatever. So it's like, I just don't understand the need for it, because the only difference between this and the Disney version are three things. One, this won't have any songs in it. Two, it's a PG-13 rating. And three, it's little to worse CGI. I didn't mind some of the visual components in this trailer. Some of the stuff at night was really well done, or some of the environment was fine. But the animation looked a little worse, and I just don't know if it's because of the photorealistic environments that we got in the Disney version, or the animals in that one looked a little cleaner and sharper. I realize this movie doesn't come out for a little bit, but they need to clean up the animation. It looks a little too.
Yeah, I actually wonder if they cut the trailer several weeks ago, even months.
Yeah.
Because, it seems like they would be further along now, and maybe they are. We just don't see that. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just probably because I'm a little close to the story having just been told.
Yeah,
and in a movie that I sincerely adore. I think that 2017 kind of struggled with the Disney remakes with Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
2016 did not. I loved Pete's Dragon, and I loved The Jungle Book. And so I think that that this looks, vaguely interesting. It's again, it'll be curious to see the same thing told through a different studio with a bit of a harder rating. Obviously, they'll let loose a little bit with the storytelling, and I guess not being a musical will free it a little bit from being seen as the same movie as whether it be the Disney version or the Jason Scott Lee version from back in the 90s. The really good one with him and who was it? I think Carrie Ellis. That I haven't seen that in years, but that was a really good one. So yeah, it's just not necessary. It's just not necessary, and I think that we can ask for better. Honestly, it just kind of looks a little forgettable to me. So, yeah. All right, take us into the next trailer, sir.
We're skipping that one, right?
I mean, the next, yeah, we're skipping. So everybody, okay, I guess I'll go ahead and do it. The Sisters Brothers is our next trailer. This one comes from director Jacques Audiard. If you guys are not familiar with Audiard, he directed a couple of movies that I really liked. The Beat That My Heart Skipped from back in 2005 with Romain Duris, and A Prophet with Tahar Rahim from back in 2010. One of the best recent prison movies. Sort of in the vein later on with what Starred Up with Jack Connell was kind of in that vein. Very, very, very realistic, and I mean that in the traditional sense of the term. And he's back with a movie that looks very different from his usual. It's got a great cast: John C. Reilly, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Joaquin Phoenix. What an interesting pairing of three people. Obviously, these are the Sisters Brothers, and they're kind of involved in various schemes and robbing places. It's not a very specific trailer. There's not a real sense of the plot, if there is one. But it just kind of follows these three brothers, very well edited. It's kind of a showy trailer. And yeah, I really dug this. I thought that it was very stylish, and I can't wait to see what ODR does with this kind of Western kind of material. And very excited to see all the performances from all these people. So take it away, Chase.
Yeah, it's one of those trailers. It's one of those trailers that it's interesting because we're about to talk about another one that is also kind of set in a Western type of environment, but it's completely different in tone. And this trailer just shows you that you can create any type of tone in the Western genre, whether it be comedy, drama, horror, thriller. You could do anything, and so this one was kind of different.
It's why Westerns are really underrated. I went through like a Western binge recently, and it's a really diverse genre because literally Western is just the setting. You can do whatever you want within it.
It's a blank canvas.
Yeah, it is, and I think that people get a lot of misconceptions about the genre, that it's just a bunch of dusty chestnuts and people glaring at each other and about to pull a weapon, and very bland in that way. And it can be, but it's often not. I mean, one of my favorite films of all time, My Darling Clementine, from 1946. It's on a pristine Blu-ray Criterion. Get it if you don't own it. Literally, just blind buy it if you haven't seen it. It's probably the best, short of maybe Citizen Kane, the best black and white cinematography of all time. And it's a brilliant story. Another one, Stagecoach, the primary influence for The Hateful Eight. Absolute masterpiece. Probably one of the best performances I've ever seen from John Wayne. And it's a great genre. And so you have this, I think that, and the other trailer that we're going to talk about, great trailer. I'll just say it now. We won't say the movie, but I mean, both of these movies look really unique in terms of Westerns. And I love that we have three directors that you wouldn't suspect taking on this genre and clearly doing something very interesting with it. And I'm very excited to see this. So
I mean, there's going to be a theme running throughout all the trailers, is that all of these trailers have such an amazing, like, eclectic group of cast members that even if the trailer was awful, I'd still see it. But I think the kind of uniqueness of the tone, and especially pairing like John C. Reilly and Joaquin Phoenix and Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed like together.
Oh yeah, Riz Ahmed.
It's like, what a weird combination, but somehow it works. It looks like it's just one of those Westerns that's just going to take it in a different direction, and based on the cast and the tone alone, I'm down for it.
And four actors who couldn't be in like more, well, I guess with the exception of Gyllenhaal and Phoenix, they tend to take on intense roles. Everybody but different kind of intense roles. And so you have four actors who kind of operate on different wavelengths all together. And I really appreciate that, because John C. Reilly obviously has his roots in drama. It was later on when he took on comedies, but because of that, he's taken on a lot of comedies. So we're used to seeing him in those. So we're not really used to seeing him in this kind of thing anymore, rather than the old days of like Magnolia and all of that. And so, yeah, I love that cast. All right, sir. So take us into the other Jakey G trailer.
The other Jakey G trailer is my favorite trailer. Sorry, spoiler alert. So this one's called Wildlife. And believe it or not, we have another big sick situation. What do I mean by that? It is directed by Paul Dano, and it's actually written by Paul Dano and his girlfriend, Zoe Kazan. And they adapted this from a novel of the same name. A very fascinating synopsis. It is about, from the perspective of a boy that witnesses his parents' marriage kind of, going into disarray and falling apart after his mother meets another man. And so, on paper, it sounds pretty generic. Doesn't really sound it's going to kind of give you anything new within this type of, drama setting. But I got to tell you, man, this trailer is great. And you know what's even better is that I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I love him to death. Whatever he is in, I will watch, and usually trailers showcase him as like the primary person. Now, he plays the father, so obviously he has a big, important role. But I was actually shocked, in a good way, because I haven't really seen her in much, it seems, is that they highlighted Carey Mulligan as the person of the trailer. And she looks like, just from this 2-minute trailer, she looks like she's going to give, I'm going to go ahead and just say it right now, maybe an Oscar-winning performance this year.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That this performance is probably headed straight to a win.
Yeah. It's one of those, like, just trailers that showcases how, quote-unquote, Oscar bait can actually work in its favor by not appearing as Oscar bait, but just delivering these like kind of raw, intense performances that you cannot ignore. Now, she's going to be nominated for sure, but I'm totally with Joel on this one. This is probably going to be a win, and we haven't even seen the damn movie yet. But just from the trailer, her and Jake look like they have great chemistry as parents. It looks really just... It kind of... it reminds me of the type of vibe and filmmaking of like a Blue Valentine, where it kind of has like this raw kind of nature to it, where it doesn't seem like they're filming a movie. It seems like they're following real people around, and it has, you know, this kind of like somber but sleek and clean cinematography. It's so well done. And if you guys haven't seen this trailer, please check it out. I guess we're in the year of debuts, Joel, because, you know, we'll have Yardi with Idris Elba, like we mentioned before, and now we got Paul Dano's directorial debut. Obviously, you did not like this trailer, so please alert the media and let people know out there. Just why do you give me your problems with this trailer, man?
I have none. No,
exactly.
This looks really terrific. It's got obviously a kind of one of those once in a lifetime great performances. From an actress who's been doing solid work for years. You know, the first thing that I remember seeing her in was An Education way back in 2009.
Yes, that's a great one.
Yeah, great movie. And this seems to be sort of in that vein too, honestly. That was probably more openly a comedy. This is going to be a drama, but I think they sort of operate in that similar, both period pieces, not from the same period, but both period pieces. And, yeah, I think it looks really strong, and I'm excited to see Paul Dano, you know, take up behind the camera for the first time. It'll be very interesting. So that's your favorite trailer. Now my favorite trailer is our next one. This one is Papillon. This one is both an updated adaptation of the novel and also a remake of the Steve McQueen movie. And it stars Charlie Hunnam in the Steve McQueen role and Rami Malek in, I forgot the actor, but the other role.
Good job on your research, Joel.
Right. I forgot. Man, this movie looks amazing. And so I was talking to Chase before this, and I was telling him that there's a trailer this week that looks like it's going to be like it could potentially be top 5 material in terms of greatness of the year. And I think that this is that trailer. We have some great trailers this week, but everything about this trailer presented a new image for every second of its length. It did not send me on a journey that I was expecting it to send me on. I don't know this plot. I haven't seen the original movie. I haven't read the book, but this looks amazing. And coming off of The Lost City of Z for Charlie Hunnam, let's forget about King Arthur. Coming off of The Lost City of Z, that was a great performance from him. It looks like it's going to be another great performance this time. And, yeah, and then Rami Malek sounds like he's doing something very interesting with his voice again for the second time this fall with his performance as Freddie Mercury coming up as well. It's just this guy's a chameleon. I didn't look at him and see, oh, hey, it's Freddie Mercury. From the Queen movie. They look completely different, and I don't just mean physically. It looks like he's embodying a different person, and it's just fascinating. And this thing just takes you on this journey of like psychological torment, and all this. It's a movie about guy sent to prison and tries to sent to a prison camp. I think it's technically a prison camp, and obviously, he's got to try to escape, but he's got to try to escape his own mind first. And there's a lot of really interesting visual elements to this trailer that I was not expecting, and it just looks powerful in every way. So this is my favorite trailer of the week. Much respect to Wildlife, great trailer, but this is the one that I'm picking. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to blame you. I mean, I thought it would have been Wildlife, but I knew in the back of my mind once you started saying it, I was like, oh no, this is the trailer you were talking about because he was in Lost City of Z last year, and I was like, yeah, Joel's in love with that movie, so he's going to be in love with this one. So, and my bad for picking the wrong one, but the trailer looks really strong. I like the fact that Rami Malek's going to have like a great year with this and Bohemian Rhapsody, and of course he's on Mr. Robot, so the guy's just crushing it. And now we can all forget about him just showing his ass in Need for Speed, and we can get past that. But no, I was actually discussing this with my girlfriend earlier before we started recording. I gotta be honest with you. Besides Lost City of Z, I really just Charlie Hunnam has never clicked with me. I don't know what it is about him. Maybe I just need to see more of him.
I think he's been stuck in the wrong roles. I think that he's been pigeonholed because of Sons of Anarchy, that he plays this kind of, the meathead type. But his role in the Lost City of Z, which you need to watch again with the proper sound.
Yeah, exactly.
He's great in that movie, genuinely great. He should have been nominated for an Oscar, and it's because I don't know. I mean, I don't know why, like because specific reasons, but it was just the engagement of the actor and material. And this one looks to be in the same vein. I think that he looks genuinely terrific here. I think that honestly, he showed a lot of boredom in King Arthur, and I think that he might be bored with that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it might have been that Sons of Anarchy, pushed him off of that track. There's no slag against Sons of Anarchy. I've never watched it. I haven't seen him in the show, but it certainly typecast him in certain ways. And I think that roles like this and The Lost City of Z are major deviations from that. And so I think that he's able to find that the material it really works for him and find some way of making that work rather than these big like roles where he plays somebody who's again the kind of the meathead bro type, if you will. So I'm excited to and of course Rami Malek, him of the bug eyes.
I know you always like. I can't wait until we review Rhapsody, and you're just like, those eyes, man, those eyes.
They're gonna jump out of his skull at some point in that movie.
I wouldn't be surprised if 20th Century Fox made the movie 3D.
3D. They jump out of the camera. Best use of 3D since Life of Pi, guys.
Yes.
In fact, best shot. The thing in Life of Pi from above when Pi's looking down into the water. No more. It's this shot with his eyes coming out of his head. No. In any case, lead us into this very fun and quirky last trailer, sir.
So the last one is Damsel, and this one is Robert Pattinson, Mia Wasikowska. And the essential story is, Robert Pattinson is traveling across, large amounts of land. This is, set in the late 1800s to go to the love of his life, played by Wasikowska. And I really like the trailer. It's not my favorite, but I've always appreciated, Robert Pattinson post Twilight, because it just shows that once again, that franchise does not define him or Kristen. They're both fantastic performers in their own right, and especially from last year, watching Good Time and just being completely blown away by that performance. Like, he is definitely one of my favorites to watch, and him in this one, it just looks like a really good Western. Now, the surprising thing about the trailer is that, yes, on the surface, it seems very basic. He's traveling across land, and we're going to take this adventure with this character to go to the love of his life. I have a feeling this trailer hid a lot of stuff, and there's going to be a lot of twists, turns, and surprises, and that kind of makes me excited to see it,
They do kind of hint at that in the dynamic between him and Wasikowski's character, because we see at least a few little interactions between them, and she's not happy.
Yeah, she's not having it.
Yeah, so
I think there's
very
a lot more
interesting
to this trailer.
Yeah, it'll be. I mean, just the title's kind of subversive, because clearly he thinks maybe he's trying to rescue her, thinks that she needs rescued because damsel, So yeah, it's a very interesting tonal dynamic going on here. And it's another one. Same thing with the Sisters Brothers being directed by a filmmaker that you wouldn't really expect to make a movie like this. This one comes from the Zellner brothers, who directed that movie Kumiko the Treasure Hunter from a few years ago. I don't know if you saw that.
I never saw it, but I have heard of it.
Okay, it's great, and it's a really dark comedy about this woman who thinks that Fargo is real, and that the money that is hidden underneath the snow in near the end of that movie is actually there. So she travels to Fargo to look for it, and goes on a very interesting journey. In that case, it's actually based on a true story, something that actually happened. That's not so clear cut as what the movie says, but whatever. The movie is its own thing. And it was terrific. Rinko Kikuchi was in that, and it's a great movie. And so, but it was completely not a Western. So this, it's like their next movie is just completely different. And I can't wait to see it. It looks really killer. It looks really funny. There's a great last scene to this trailer that I thought was amusing, involving whiskey. That I thought that was really funny. So, yeah, I'm really excited for that. So my favorite trailer was Papillon. Chase's favorite was Wildlife. Let us know what yours is, and in the comments below. And guys, we're there. We're doing it. We're reviewing Chase's favorite movie of all time. It's called Solo: A Star Wars Story. This one comes from director Ron Howard, and it's the third spinoff of the Star Wars franchise, following Star Wars: The Clone Wars back in 2008, and more recently Rogue One. This one is an origin story that tells us about how Han Solo came to be Han Solo. We see, the most obvious stuff, such as his acquisition of the Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian, and he meets Chewbacca. He gets his weapon of choice, the blaster, that he kind of wields like he's a Western hero, ironically enough, speaking of Westerns. And this one, instead of them de-aging Harrison Ford or something similarly terrible, they recast the role. It's Alden Ehrenreich playing this particular Han Solo. He's in his mid-20s, I believe, in this story. And in this one, we find that he has a girlfriend named Kira, played by Emilia Clarke. They start the story out as petty thieves, or what have you, and they're trying to escape their life of drudgery on Corellia, and they get separated in that attempt. And Han goes off to join the Empire, which actually is a very interesting detail about his character that I think is one of the more interesting things here, that he actually fought on behalf of the Empire for some time, and then joins up with a guy named Beckett, played by Woody Harrelson, who is, alongside a bunch of his team members, is petty. They're a bunch of petty thieves for Dryden Voss, a gangster played by Paul Bettany, for whom Kira is now a lieutenant. And yeah, so that's pretty much the story here. Voss wants some explosive stuff, whatever it's called, don't remember, and they have to get it for him in order to stay in his good graces. So that's pretty much the plot of this movie. Now, I guess I'll just kind of start off. I wasn't, like I said at the beginning of the show, I wasn't super excited that this was a Han Solo origin movie. I didn't really think that we needed one, and the trailers really suggested exactly that to me. I mean, it looked fine. It was just kind of like whatever. I'm happy to report that I actually kind of liked the movie, and I will hand it over to Chase for his lack of any sort of anticipation whatsoever.
Yeah, the trailers really never won it over for me. It's not because of I'm not one of these like hardcore people that's like, this isn't my Harrison Ford, this isn't my Han Solo. Listen, folks, I could care less who they cast in the role. I just want a good movie. But the trailers really never won me over. It looked like it was kind of lackluster on the fun and excitement and stuff you would want to see from a Han Solo type of character-based story, because that's what his character is. So anticipation was kind of lukewarm, given the fact that, because I will restate this once again, just in case people want to throw pitchforks at me here in about 30 seconds. I love The Last Jedi. I like The Force Awakens. I don't really care for Rogue One, but I do like that whole third act battle sequence. It is definitely one of the better battle sequences in the franchise. The original trilogy, I'm fine with. The prequels, whatever. I did watch all of them, and, it's not my franchise, but I enjoy them just kind of going in different directions and just kind of just doing stuff. And, I'm up for whatever Lucasfilm wants to do, even though I think it's stupid to keep going back to this stuff. And I'm sad to report, and I'm sure it doesn't really, surprise Joel in any way, shape, or form. I didn't really like this movie, like at all. And it's not because of the whole, director switch or whatever. I really don't care about that. I just want a good product in the end. But I do think there is a kind of lack of focus and kind of visual, flair to it that I found quite unappealing. And it just, the bottom line is, I'm going to try to not say this as much in my review because I want to try to do this in a professional manner. I just don't care. I didn't care about anything that went on. It just, nothing really grabbed me or spoke to me. It just seemed very kind of basic and formulaic, and I was just like, okay, like I guess it's passable on a technical level, and story wise, no thank you. Character wise, no thank you. So I gotta be honest with you, man, I did not care for it. But before I'm gonna get into my review first, because I'm sure Joel will love to rebuttal after what I'm just about to spew in my mouth. But the funny thing was, my theater was a fourth of the way full. It was insane that a Star Wars film, even Rogue One, had a big audience when I saw it. And I saw it Sunday in the morning. I saw this one in the afternoon on a Saturday, like a 3 p.m. show. And it was a fourth full. That is so embarrassing. I was like, wow. So I guess everyone else, it was kind of like me, where I just didn't really, there was no excitement in the air, where I felt like, these past few weeks, like, I could feel the energy with, like, Avengers and Deadpool 2, and, I feel the energy even for the lackluster Jurassic World. I feel more energy coming off of that than I do with this, and so I was like, what's going on with this movie? And the audience, just reacting to it, and the crowd size was just a great reminder that this movie was just not good, and it just I don't even know where to begin. So I'm gonna try my best to keep it real and just tell you guys what I like and what I don't like. So here we go. When I saw Justice League back in November, and when the movie started, I was like, wow, this seems pretty visually bland, and it just seems like they're playing it safe because of this director change and not really doing anything to make it stand out. And I never thought I'd be saying this again, but I had the same experience with this one. I don't know what it was, but I thought this movie was visually ugly, kind of boring. The colors were all like brown and kind of gray, and there was no distinct style to it. It just seemed like, it didn't even seem like a Star Wars film. It seemed like this Elseworld type of futuristic movie with gadgets and cool little ships and stuff, with some very questionable CGI on creatures, than a Star Wars film. And I was kind of appalled, because at least with Star Wars films, I can appreciate like costume design, production design. It's always fascinating to see what type of sets that these people create. On a technical level. I always like Star Wars on a visual front. Regardless of what I think of stories or whatever, I always love watching one of those movies, because at least they have really great eye candy. I just felt like there was no effort put in. Like, and it's really astounding because the cinematographer is Bradford Young, who has done some really incredible work in the past few years, and so I thought it was someone else. Like, there was nothing to it that spoke out to me on a visual front that made it exciting or compelling. And so when you have like these bland kind of mute colors going on throughout this movie, it can seem kind of boring or lackluster, and that also translates into the story. I didn't care about the story. All this movie was a very short heist and a long heist. I don't mind if you put that in your movie because that's what Han Solo is, but there's got to be more. So I just felt like everything was completely flat and bland. I didn't care about anyone dying or anything happening or, you know, all the Force like fan service stuff. It bugged the hell out of me. It just seemed like it was, you know, Kathleen Kennedy walking on screen going, "Look, this is a character you saw back in the day. Isn't that cool?" And it's like, no, it isn't cool. It made me watch a movie that I'm actually excited to kind of watch. And so I really didn't care anything that was going on, like I said, story-wise, character-wise. I realized that the actors were giving it their all, and they're actually not the problem. I actually think the performances are fine, and they're serviceable. It's just the way they're written. I think Woody Harrelson looked like he was having fun. He was, you know, enjoyable to watch. You know, Paul Bettany, with the short amount of screen time he had, he looked like he was having fun in his role, but we don't really get to know too much about him. And it's like, okay, he's supposed to be a threat. It never came across to me like as an actual threat. Emilia Clarke is fine. Alden Ehrenreich is fine. But that also goes back to what I was saying about the Boba Fett thing, is that we didn't need this movie. But if you're going to do a prequel on Han Solo, make his backstory interesting and give us something new that we've never seen before. What Alden Ehrenreich was doing, whether it be the way he was acting and the way this character was written, there felt like there was nothing new added to him. I know Joel's going to rebuttal that. That's fine. He's going to yell at me and throw something. That's totally fine. But for me, it just never clicked. Because the beginning of the movie was very like haphazardly rushed, and I was like, okay, so he likes someone, he joins the army or whatever, and then he gets into his first kind of heist gig. Okay, like, was this really necessary to bring in as a feature film? It just seemed like something that you would mention in a pass-by conversation, which I'm sure they have, but I just don't pay attention enough to the lore. I'm just judging it as, you know, as they come, so I'm just going off of this movie, but his life doesn't seem interesting enough to actually carry a feature film, so yada, yada, yada. I guess going back to the characters and some of the performances, Donald Glover was fine as Lando. He had enough charisma and kind of bite to him where I was like, cool, he's very charismatic and suave, but he's also pretty kick-ass in, you know, his fight scenes. I thought, you know, he was one of the better parts. His robot was annoying. I absolutely hated that robot to death. This L3 Alpha looking mother effer. It was almost like if Alpha from Power Rangers was like, had like a wire trip and like started developing like a different language and like started speaking differently. It's just, I don't know, it was really strange, and it was like forced humor peppered within that robot. I just did not care for. And speaking of the humor, most of the humor didn't work for me. There was a couple times where I chuckled and laughed, and I was like, that was probably a Phil Lord and Chris Miller situation, but I just thought the humor just did not work for me. Since I've poo-pooed on a lot of stuff, I guess some of the things that I did find interesting was, once again, I do love the costumes that these characters kind of portray. They do provide this otherworldly aspect about the Star Wars universe while also being kind of modern. I don't know, it's very cool how, and this goes back to Rogue One, even the episodic stories. I like the costume design. Whoever's doing that, great job with that. The production design, whether it be, you know, the Millennium Falcon or, you know, some of the other settings, whether it be, you know, this beach or, you Paul Bettany's little penthouse or whatever. It's good looking stuff, but the problem is it goes back to the whole cinematography and the color palette. It's so boring and disgusting to look at because of the color palette they chose to use with this movie that it kind of dilutes all the hard work that goes into those aspects of the film. Other things I found interesting, believe it or not, it kind of bugged me at first, but as the movie went on, I kind of dug it. I enjoyed the soundtrack a lot. They used this really operatic choir in one of the pieces, and it was strange, but I kind of dug it just because it was different than what we've kind of heard before. And I will say one of the last things that I really liked, the train sequence, the train heist. Joel knows what I'm talking about. That was exciting. I was like, oh wow, this actually has like a little bit of a pulse to it, a little bit of type of identity. I didn't like the fact that it was all gray, and you're basically looking at this gray screen the entire time. But in terms of an excitement level and an editing level, I thought that was kind of exciting. But what it boils down to, guys, is that there are certain Star Wars movies that will click for me. The Last Jedi. I love that one. I loved everyone's storylines kind of weaving in and out, whether you're talking about Luke or Leia or Kylo Ren or Rey, whoever you're talking about. I loved just watching everyone's storylines kind of weave in and out, show separate, arcs between each person. It was visually pretty to look at. There was some interesting technical stuff that Rian Johnson did. So when you're coming off of that, which I gave an A-, by the way, I love that movie. And you get into this, I realize that you want to take a break in kind of a cleansing palette movie. Case in point, like how we just got Avengers Infinity War. That's a heavy movie. I'm glad they were moving on to Ant-Man and the Wasp and getting like this light, fresh, type of movie to where it's just going to be fun and entertaining and not be, it's going to have some, kind of emotional, things going on, but it's not going to be as impactful as Infinity War, so it's going to be a nice palate cleanser. I get that. Solo was going for that. And, I've heard a lot of critics, be like, hey, this was kind of this fun adventure movie, it was just great entertainment. But the problem was, even on the bare bones minimum of, great adventure entertainment, I didn't find compelling because of the lack of visuals. The color palette was ugly, and the first third of the movie is very haphazardly put together. You just don't really care. I don't think Han Solo is the type of character that you need to focus on for a feature film because there's nothing more than what he is in the original trilogy. I got what I needed to know from Han Solo in those movies, and of course The Force Awakens and stuff. So I just felt like this one was unnecessary. But if you were going to do it, make it compelling. It just did not work for me on most fronts. I'm battling on my grade, to be honest with you, but I thought about this, and it was between a D+ and a C-. But here's why I'm going to give it a C-, and I still won't recommend it, is because at least it's a competent movie. And like I said, costume, production, some sequences, performances were fine. There's a lot of stuff that's at least decent to where I don't feel comfortable dipping it down to there. So I'm going to give it a very heavy C-. And I didn't really like Rogue One, and I wouldn't mind rewatching that again for that whole third act. The problem with Solo is I don't like it, and I have no desire to ever watch this movie again. So, sorry, Joel. Did not click for me. So please yell in my face and just tear down everything that I just said. And this is why I like these episodes, because now you're going to be on the other side of the coin. Please give me your take of it, and maybe I missed something. Just let me know what's going on.
Well, it's so funny because it's
and before Joel begins, I hated because we talked about this, my girlfriend and I, the reveal of Han Solo's name was one of the most idiotic things I have seen in a Star Wars film, and I will just leave it at that. Anyways, Joel, continue.
Okay. Well, I disagree majorly about that moment. But
that's
anyway,
totally fine.
so I will say it's really funny because I will just say that your review is very successful because what you've done is you've made all of our listeners wonder how in the world can Joel like that movie. All right. So I won't completely argue with a lot of what you say. I think that this movie works because it works in very, very basic terms. And those basic terms are pretty much that it is, at least for me, an engaging adventure. It's not, for me, it's not really adding much to the Han Solo, to his personality or his moral compass. It drops hints. I think it revitalizes the myth of him a little bit because of the fact that this is not quite the Han Solo we know. A lot of him is the Han Solo we know, but there's clearly gaps that need to be filled. I do have problems with the movie, and that'll reflect in my grade. But I still kind of liked it. I liked it as this sort of this just sort of dippy kind of fun action movie that you just have like you said, the train heist, really fun scene that kind of keeps increasing the stakes for everybody until this big explosive moment. And I like that. I like the sort of this journey through the maelstrom in space where they meet a bunch of dangers and then they meet a giant creature. It's again kind of increasing the stakes. I like that. Now, I will agree with you about the cinematography. I think that it's weird though. It does feel like Bradford Young to me. So that's where we differ there. But I don't think that it fits the movie because the movie is very much, again, it's very much this adventure tale with a lot of humor, and so the sepia tone that they go for does not work. And I did find that to be a big disappointment. It was hard to see, and I saw the movie in 2D. It was hard to see the movie sometimes, especially considering some of the scenes take place in space. And so you already have a dark palette, and then you have the dark scenery. And so that didn't work for me. But again, I just think that this works in very basic ways, and I think that the reason is mostly because of the performances. I think that there are a lot of really good performances here. You mentioned Woody Harrelson. I think he's fine. The character is a problem for me. But, Tandy Newton has some fun with her brief appearance. Emilia Clarke is doing interesting work in a role that I think is sort of, as is the case with Beckett, kind of a red herring in many ways. But the stuff that really worked for me, I liked Alden Ehrenreich a lot. I think that what he did was he decided not to do a Harrison Ford impression. He kind of borrowed the swagger, but he made it his own in other ways. And I thought that was really cool of him to do that. And it's the same thing with Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. I think I heard some I would put it this way. It's Billy D. Williams' inflection, but it's Donald Glover's tone. And I think that's very important. It's not an exact replica of Billy D. Williams. It certainly uses that because we know, that's the character we know is the one that was played by Billy D. Williams, who had this certain energy that if you don't have that energy, it's not Lando. But I like that he was able to incorporate his own tone. There's a little more to that character than we first see. I kind of do agree about the robot. I thought that some of the stuff she said was funny, but it just felt like, oh, hey, there's another funny robot after K2SO from Rogue One, which I thought was a lot more successful because I thought that Alan Tudyk was terrific in that role and had a lot of fun in his scenes. There was a lot more there was a lot less of a feel like there was improvisation, and with Phoebe Waller-Bridge's performance as L337, I felt like there was a bit of like you said, the Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. I wouldn't be surprised if most of her scenes were just shot by them. We've heard the reports about how Ron Howard reshot 85% of the movie, and I think that the 15% mostly has to do with that character, and a lot of the stuff that we see is actually directed by Lord and Miller. That's my
Well,
That's what I
Joel,
suspect.
you know what's really weird is like I'm sure hopefully you agree is that when the humor was like apparent, like so apparent in the movie, it felt like a Chris Lord and Phil Miller scene, like a
You switched the first names, but yes.
Oh, excuse me. Dyslexia, folks, it's a real thing. Like there was one scene. I'm not going to reveal the joke, but Joel, you remember they were on the beach and Lando does something with the Millennium Falcon in this wide shot. That felt like a Miller and Lord shot versus like a Ron Howard shot, and it felt like they left in their scenes and their humor, and that's where it kind of like cut through the movie with me, and it didn't really necessarily mesh with the Ron Howard stuff, if that makes
a little
sense.
I think you kind of use a bad example because that did fit the tone and pacing of the scene, because of course that's going to happen, that moment, but certainly it did cut through a little bit, and I did have a problem with that. However, my favorite actor, for some reason, and I've just been thinking about his performance, and I don't know why, because the character is so generically bad guy, but I think that Paul Bettany's actually the best person in this movie. And the reason that I think that is because I think that the character has a little bit more to him than just generically bad. At no point is he predictable in this movie. You can't predict what he's going to do, and it's because of Bettany's performance. Because he mixes this sense of menace with a charisma that he's being this charming guy, and then he'll throw out a threat against your life. That's sort of what he's doing, and I think that Bettany plays that so well, that in those moments where he's the quote unquote nice guy, you forget he's the villain of the piece unless you look at his face and he has a lot of scars on it. But in any case, I think it's a really good performance. That one really surprised me, and so. It's kind of the most of the reason why this works, and I just think that Ron Howard executes these action sequences with a real sense of spectacle. Now, I know that the cinematography kind of interrupts that because you can't see it a lot, but taking the sequences on their own, the stuff that's happening in them, the timing, the editing by the great Pietro Scalia, who is or Scalia, however you say that. Who is Ridley Scott's regular editor. I think that it's really good action editing, and so that's the major thing for me. I just think that this works in very basic terms as an action film. Now, as a glimpse into Han's, kind of a Han's growth, I think that it offers glimpses and not much more. But I think that in those terms, I think that it works kind of well. This is the first of a trilogy, or an intended trilogy. We'll see what happens with that. But I think that even standing alone, I think that it suffices in the important areas, which in this case, in the case of something like Star Wars, are in navigating an adventure. I think that the Star Wars franchise is primarily an adventure story, and I think that this earns that. Now, is it as interesting as the stuff like The Last Jedi? No. Is it as fun as something like The Force Awakens? No. I don't even think it's quite as good as Rogue One. I am sort of with you that I would rather watch Rogue One again, say right now or whatever. I think that's a more interesting spinoff. But again, it's very basic ways. I do have problems. I think that the wheels of the plot kind of move pretty predictably. Even with the fact of the character of Dryden Voss not being predictable, other things around him are. Now, I will just say for my last bit of before my grade, this is the last thing that I'll bring up. All of this stuff with him finding his weapon, meeting Chewbacca, meeting Lando, I think that it's understandable that you might take away the fact that stuff is fan service. I think that in context they are not, because I think that it's just kind of telling his story. And his story, it just so happens that he comes across a lot of this stuff early on in the points of the story that are interesting. And so I think that the much, 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 much more blatant example of that, and you know what I'm talking about, is this really shameless cameo.
Oh my God. Don't even bring that up. When that certain cameo came up, I turned to my girlfriend and I said, Why is this person in this movie? It makes no sense, and it's basically, once again, Kathleen Kennedy stopping the movie going, hey kids, you remember this person? It's like, yes, I do, but he doesn't belong in the movie.
Yeah,
it's
no,
so dumb.
I completely agree with you. Not only because of the fact that it's shameless on its own.
So
I've been hearing rumors that George Lucas came in and directed a scene or helped to direct a scene. I have to wonder if it's this one. I don't say that because I don't like the prequels. I just want to say that to all the Star Wars fans out there who defend the prequels and defend George Lucas. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there would be a great amount of coincidence if that wasn't the case. Because I think that you'll know what I mean. Let's just say that it connects it to the prequels, and it does it, but it does it though through this appearance of a character that makes no sense. It makes no sense for him to be there. Now, from what I understand, that particular character, I have to have watched like the Clone Wars or something to understand this. Maybe that gives it away for some people, but whatever the case, I don't get it. I don't understand why he's there. I don't like that he's there. I was sitting there with my hand on my head. I was like, what is going on right now? And I don't like it. So that's
it's almost like you're going on like a pretty decent date, right? And you're like talking with your date and like, hey, what do you like to do? Oh, I like to do this. What are your hobbies? Like, you're just getting to know them, right? And then they just randomly drop a bombshell like, oh, I'm a murderer. What? Like it was completely just unflattering. Like it was almost like listening to someone drop a bombshell like that. You're like, why?
Interesting allegory. Okay, so, or analogy, I should say. Yeah, that's the least successful thing here. It is the most shameless attempt. It's the most shameless bit of fan service I think I've seen in this trilogy. Like in this trilogy, in this series. It's bad. Now, I was not a fan. I wasn't even on the show when you reviewed this. When you reviewed Rogue One, was not on the episode. But I would have brought up, or was I? Was I on that episode? I can't remember. Anyway, I've done so many of these at this point as well that it's like I can't remember what I was on. But yeah, the thing in Rogue One where Darth Vader shows up twice, that was pretty bad. This is worse.
Yeah,
I'll just say this is worse. And not only through just the appearance, but the literal appearance because of how he appears, the visual effects used to make him appear are terrible.
It doesn't even look like him.
I mean, it doesn't even look like that character. I understand that there's an element there of let's just say it's a hologram. I'll just say it's a hologram of that character. Now that could mean several different things to everybody listening. I've not given anything away here. Trust me. Even just the hologram effects look like mid-90s. It's insane. It's so bad. But anyway, setting that aside, because it's really just like a few seconds of the movie, and it's not even seemingly very important to me. I still think the movie kind of works. I think that it works as a cool, good little pedal to the metal action flick that happens to be set in the Star Wars universe, and I think that it also earns the right to be called Star Wars. Just because of the fact that it captures the essence of this series, which is that it's a space adventure, and it's a fun one. And so you gave it a C-. I'm going with another minus, and that's a B-. I think that it suffices. I think that it's pretty good. Am I particularly excited to see it again on Blu-ray? No. I mean, I know that I will several times, but not super like excited for that. I'm sure that I will get the Steelbook Blu-ray or whatever that they do if they do one, but yeah, it's just one of those pretty good Star Wars movies. So I would maybe put it, I guess above Clone Wars and Phantom Menace. Clone Wars, of course, not Attack of the Clones. I like that one a little more than this, but Clone Wars, meaning the animated movie from 2008, I would put it slightly above those two. I wasn't huge on those, and this one is kind of barely good. I'd give those both of those other movies a C+. I'd give this one a B-. So somewhere near the bottom, but I still think it works. However, what I've been hearing through the grapevine, I haven't really seen anything specific, but that it's kind of an underperformer.
That's a great segue because I'm about to bring up some stuff that Joel might cry and might need therapy. So that is what excites me the most about this because I was quite shocked. But
you were
again,
excited to see me go to therapy. All right.
It just it is what it is. Hey, listen, if a Marvel movie underperforms, I'm sure you would rub it in my face too. All right, so
I probably would really
yeah,
hard. Yeah.
Exactly. So here's the deal, folks. When I was saying that there was a fourth of the theater capacity at my screening of Solo, I was not joking. So here is the box office results, and of course, it's Joel's term.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much that was the only wide release. So I'm gonna say, or was it? Yeah, that was. The only one.
I was just double checking, just real fast before we did anything, and yes, you were correct. Only wide release. Good luck, sir.
Okay, so I mean, I know by default that's number one, just because it's the big release of the week. Number two, I'm gonna say Deadpool 2. Number 3, Avengers Infinity War. Number 4, I'm going to say Book Club. Wait. Yeah, Book Club, and then number 5, Life of the Party.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the week that a Star Wars film comes out, Joel must have Lady Luck on his side because he just nailed all 5 in a row in correct order. That is pretty.
I did not look either. I swear. The thing that I did look at the Friday estimates, but I looked at them like yesterday morning. So I did not look at anything
until another movie comes out. This is gonna be pretty predictable for a while. So
yeah. I mean, this one's gonna be number 1 next week probably. It's gonna be unless something else jumps back up.
Basically, what Joel just said for the top 3, we'll just dip down. And it might just be
until Incredibles 2 probably. It's Ocean's
Jurassic World.
Ocean's 8 might interrupt, but
yeah, maybe.
But at least the top 3. I can't imagine it not making the top 3. But
correct. But
Incredibles 2 will make a lot, and then Jurassic World. So,
but you are correct for now until I get slaughtered next week because I'm awful at this stuff. But Life of the Party is number 5 with 5.1 million. It is doing, 39 domestically, 45 worldwide on a budget. I think it was 40 or 50 mil, so it'll do fine on airplanes and streaming on iTunes, whatever. Number 4, once again, streaming on iTunes and planes, whatever, is Book Club with 9.5 million. Definitely a movie I have no interest in seeing. I
totally just remembered just now that I saw it and reviewed it on my website.
Oh my! I completely forgot you did review it. So thank you for bringing that horrid memory up. So, no worldwide numbers, but domestically it's at 31. No budget, but it looked like it costs a Snickers bar and a $10 token to Dave & Buster's. I have no clue. So there you go. Number 3 is Avengers Infinity War, and here's where I'll start to dive deep into the numbers because this is where some records are going to be slain. First, before I get into Avengers Infinity War, Black Panther got another almost $500,000 this weekend, and it is less than $1.5 million away from reaching 700 domestically.
Nice.
That's holy crap.
That is awesome. I'm so happy for that team.
I know, right? It's I'm sure Coogler's just doing backflips. He's getting so many offers right now. Avengers Infinity War, number 3 was 16.4 million. It is climbing up there, and right now domestically, it is at 621, and worldwide it's at 1.9 bill. So it's less than 100 million to reaching that coveted 2 billion mark. It's
third, right? Third.
Yes. No. It's fourth worldwide.
Okay. Yeah.
Force Awakens is at 2.068, so it's got a little more than 100 mil to go to beat that. Yeah, it's a lot of money, folks. Anyways, domestically it's at 621. It's 2 million and some change away from beating the first Avengers, which is at 623, which it will do that in the course of the week, so that's going to be fun. And it's got a long way to go before it reaches Black Panther numbers domestically, but Hey, you know what? Only time will tell. Deadpool 2 dropped 66% from last weekend, and it garnered 42 million. Doing pretty well right now on 100.
This thing's kind. I disagree. This thing's kind of struggling.
I mean, given its budget and its marketing, I mean, it's going to do fine. But you're right, though. They expected a whole lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't even make the opening weekend that the first one did, and I just feel like that's indicative of something.
Yeah, it's also overcrowding when you have Infinity War, this, and Solo. It's like someone's bound to like get shot in the foot. So and we're about to get to that because the Solo numbers.
Well, I know that it's the most expensive Star Wars movie ever made because of the reshoots. So I can't imagine that it's
Joel. Don't put the salt on the wound, my friend. I'm about to reveal the numbers, and it's not pretty. All right, so Deadpool. Right now, domestically, it's at 207. Worldwide, it's at 487. It's almost at 500 on a budget of 110. Double that. Marketing, they needed about 350, maybe 400 to break even. They're doing fine right now, but they needed a whole lot more. And going forward, I have no idea what they're going to do. And also, we need to even know where Fox is going. They might go to Universal. They might go to Disney. So we just have to wait for that. And number one, of course, is a Star Wars movie, Red Solo Cup movie. So, Joel, would you like to guess how much it made? And by the way, folks, I realize this is Memorial Day weekend. We're not doing that 4-day crap. We're doing 3 days like we normally do. Thursday night to Sunday. Joel, how much did Solo make?
Oh, boy. Oh, man. Did it not even crack 100?
You are correct. Would you like to take a stab at the number?
Is it in the 90s?
Lower.
Oh, no. Oh, man. It's in the 80s.
Yes.
Okay.
It clocked in at 83 million. And I just want people to know that Rogue One debuted to double that. This is not good. And what's even worse, if you thought the 83 million domestically was bad, get this. This is a Star Wars film, folks. Opened globally at 148. That's with the US is 83 and the foreign territories of 65. That is not good. So if you think there's going to be a trilogy, that thing is axed. It's done.
I don't know. Disney's richer than God, so I think that they could probably still do that.
It's its budget is almost. I mean, we're looking into
the budget for the next one won't be that big because they'll have a director and then they'll keep that director.
You would think, right? And then they might.
Well, they've learned their lessons now. They know that Lord and Miller won't work unless they bring them back with specific instructions. Or whatever.
I think they burned that bridge. There's no way they're
probably so. But if they bring Ron Howard back, I mean, they'll probably just have a budget of 150, something a lot more reasonable, because this is it's one of the most expensive blockbusters of all time.
True, but when you look at going back, it's the same situation with Justice League. It only opened up to like 107, and it had around the same budget, and that movie kind of tanked. And I don't think going forward, the momentum's going to carry this. Like this is going to flop. Like I hate to say it, but it's going to. No, flop.
It's definitely a flop. I just think that it's not quite so clear cut with the future of the series, just because it's Disney and they buy things. They could probably buy Jeff Bezos.
That is true.
Yeah, well, no, actually, no, that's not true because Jeff Bezos is like worth $1 trillion. I'm not sure they would do that. Probably Jeff Bezos would buy Disney. Anyway.
Well, and so I like to clarify because I'm looking up the numbers right now. I said Rogue One doubled. It almost doubled. It came in at 155, but that's still a monster slaughter to 83.
Yeah, and plus that's more domestically in the opening weekend than this made worldwide. In the opening weekend. So that's what I'm saying. That's pretty
Solo
bad.
Worldwide made less than Rogue One domestically opening weekend. Yeah. That's awful. So
that is very bad, and it makes it even look even worse given its budget. Like people are going to look at that and then see 83 million, and then they're just like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
just
it really
it's.
does look bad.
I think this is the first sting in the
Yeah,
post buyout from Lucasfilm. So
yeah.
people are going to have their
And now
stumbles.
if they make a Boba Fett movie and fire the directors and get a director in there and then spend $250 million on that and then make $50 million in the opening weekend or whatever, that would never happen. But you know,
Hey, but you know what, Joel? You never know, because I remember when you and I talked about the Lord and Miller situation with Solo, and we're like, oh, cool, they're on the direct, it could be fun, and all the turmoil happened, and it's like, oh, and now it opens up with 83. Yeah, probably shouldn't do that again. So in hindsight, Lucasfilm.
yeah,
please do
maybe
better.
this will actually open their eyes. Maybe people, they'll realize potentially people heard about that, weren't really interested after the turmoil happened, and then now they'll maybe be a little bit more open to the possibility of something like that happening. Maybe have stuff in the screenplay that says ad lib, uh,
Yeah, it
to
literally
allow
says, like in parentheses, ad lib.
or
That'd be
vamp
hilarious.
or whatever, vamp.
But yeah, that's the box office results, guys. A lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff. I'm kind of just looking around to see if there's any like major bumps or losses. First Reformed came in at 17th place with a almost 200% rise, and it got $282,000 this weekend. That's not bad. Let's see.
Still a week until I get to see it.
Right. Also, another movie that I know Joel is excited for jumped up. What was it, 81%? The Seagull.
Yeah.
From 37th place last weekend to 25th place.
Which I'll sadly have to miss in theaters. I'll be seeing that on DVD though.
But either way, Joel will see it because his bay is
Yeah.
in it. What's really funny is that the Seagull came in at 25th place. In 27th place was on Chesil Beach.
Hey.
And that jumped up 154% from last weekend. So, they're both doing quite well. So Saoirse Ronan is doing her thing. A24 kind of stumbling a little bit. I know it only opened up in 2 theaters, but How to Talk to Girls at Parties got $13,000 this weekend, and it opened up to 2 theaters. So that's kind of embarrassing.
That is pretty bad.
Yeah. So
I've been hearing it's not a very good movie though, so it might have been just word of mouth.
I do know that this will make Joel very happy because he didn't care for this movie at all. Flower came in at 42nd place. It's playing in 1 theater, and it made $560, and it's only made a little over 300,000 total.
There we go.
There you go. So now Joel is finally happy again. That's pretty much it for the box office, guys. Really nothing else. So that will do it for this week's episode, guys. Thank you for listening. Joel, would you like to introduce what we're doing for episode 233?
Yeah, so next week our main review of topic will be Upgrade, which Chase has already seen, and I am anxiously awaiting. It's the new cool-looking action flick with Logan Marshall Green from director Lee Wannell. So very excited to see it. Looks really fun and sleek and cool. So really excited for that. And then I think I'm going to be offering an extra review of First Reformed, which Chase has already reviewed. So you'll be able to go watch that, and I'll offer my thoughts. So that is the plan.
Yeah, and also I'm very well aware that Adrift opens up next weekend, and I am seeing it, but I'm not going to put Joel through that torture, so that's why we're doing Upgrade.
I think it looks fine. I'll check it out on Blu-ray.
But Joel, let's be honest, though. You would rather do Upgrade.
I would definitely rather do
so
Upgrade.
That's why we had to make a choice.
Exactly.
But yeah, Upgrade next week will be a lot of fun, and I'm also seeing Hereditary on Thursday. I know Joel is super angry about that. So that will be the following week for sure. And that's about it for right now.
And then Incredibles 2, and then Jurassic World, and then I guess we'll go ahead and say it. Why don't we say it?
Yeah.
So this year's mid-year thing is actually just going to be called, and I'm just going to say it now, even though I haven't told Chase this. Just going to have us title it the Mid-Year Report. It's going to be a little different. So usually Chase does his sometimes with Jackson, before he kind of parted ways. they did the top 10 of the year so far. We did one last year. We're going a little differently this time because at the end of the year, I just want to say it's going to be pretty much a regular thing now. We are bringing back the bottom 10, the worst of. Now, the reason for this is interesting. We talked a lot last year on the show about how we're not going to do that anymore. We did it together when I was just a guest host for 2016, and then I decided that I wasn't going to do any more lists of the worst films. Last year I didn't do one, so here's the reason why we're bringing it back, and it sort of ties into why I'm bringing it back on my website. I realized that what I was doing was putting way too much emphasis on the snark factor of making a bottom 10. And it's easy to do that because you're talking about movies you don't like, and so in some cases you hate them, and in some cases they're really like hilariously awful. But what I realize is what we can do is kind of remove much of the significance of it in terms, like, just existentially. Kind of talk about, because all throughout the year we see movies we don't like. We might as well talk at the end of the year and kind of come up with an inventory of the ones that we like the least. So if we just approach it as that, and not that we won't have some mocking of the movies, but we won't make it just a giant mock fest. We're going to try to talk at least with some dignity about some of these movies. Now, there's going to be some that we can't have any dignity about, and that'll happen. But I think that if we just kind of remove the opportunity to just, trash on everything in a very superficial way, then we can make it a little bit more like, an Ebert and Siskel, or Siskel and Ebert, whatever, bottom 10, where they actually did genuinely bring up points, and they didn't just have a bunch of sound bites. It was genuine problems, and we can actually talk about it, as adults rather than like kids. So that's what we're doing, and because of that, we decided to split in half those lists of 10 into lists of 5 at the midpoint of the year. So in our mid-year report, we will first go over our 5 worst films of the year so far, and that is officially released from January 1st to June 30th. So we won't cover anything that doesn't have a release date yet, or anything that releases after that point. And that's what we did last year, and we're going to do it again this year. And then, of course, after the bottom 5, we'll do the top 5 best movies. So we'll be counting down, 5 to 1. So we'll end the episode on our favorite movie so far this year.
Which, by the way, I'm glad you brought that up, because the way Joel is describing it, there is a movie that we saw at the film festival that you cannot put on your list because it does not open until July, even though we have seen it.
That's very true. However, the movie that you had at the top of your list from the film festival will be able to be put on there because in limited release, it's opening the weekend of the episode.
Yes.
So that's pretty cool. Because I know that's going to be pretty high on yours. Yeah, 2 of the movies actually on mine. I think my top 2 I'm not going to be able to include. So it'll be fun to see non-film festival movies, which ones make it. So of course there's one that's opening in a couple of weeks that I loved even more than you did. It opens in limited release.
That is true.
Yeah, and that one I'm glad to have that because that's definitely going to factor in. So honestly, like I think 4 of the movies or three or 4 of the movies are going to be film festival movies. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, fun times ahead, and we won't go over what's coming out after that episode. That's too far in the future. We'll go over that in a few weeks. What's coming up for July, and until then, or the rest of July, I should say. And until then, gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah,
it's a fun June mixed in with some big blockbusters and smaller films, and I'm down to talk about all of them. But until then, Joel, we got to end this one. And so, where can the lovely people find you online?
You can find a large portion of my writing at joelonfilm.com. This week, my main review, of course, was Solo. I also did little smaller reviews of three movies that recently came on DVD and Blu-ray and/or Blu-ray. Dear Dictator, this really wacky comedy about a teenage girl who learns life lessons from a dictator. Anyway, it's getting really terrible reviews, but I kind of liked it. And then a couple of other things. I Killed Giants, about this girl who is grieving and disappears into a world of monsters. It was okay. And The Party, which has this great cast. It's 71 minutes long. It's very short, but it's basically this comedy drama hybrid about this woman who has just been promoted in Parliament, invites a bunch of people over. A bunch of secrets come out during the celebrations. A guy brings a gun to the party. It was okay. It kind of stretches itself thin even at an hour. So I've got reviews of those up on my website. You can also read some of my writing, particularly my film festival reviews, at dallasmoviescreenings.com. You can follow me on Twitter at RealJoelCopling. That's REEL, Joel Copling. And on Letterboxd at jcopling. So it's that's where I am on the old Webernets.
Yeah, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at RealChaseLee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel where you'll get reviews of stuff I don't do on this show. Like I will have a review. That's hard to say. A drift review.
And a drift review. Wow, buddy.
I know that's my brain is officially just falling off the cliff. That will be on my channel this week, so you can get that if you wanted to know your thoughts on that or want to know my thoughts on that. And then, of course, for this podcast, it's on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, wherever you guys are listening. Please spread this around and let people know this is your favorite movie podcast. And, hey, listen, if you came here for the first time and you were not a movie fan, hopefully we convinced you to be one and love film just like we do. But please help us, guys. It just, lets us know that, people are listening and people are engaging and stuff. So, spread this around and, help us out a little bit. And we'll, maybe in the future when we can finally, get a Patreon going over, we can give you guys more content and stuff. But you guys got to help us out. Just spread it around. Just let people know this is the one, man, because there's a lot of them out there. But we are appreciative of you guys. You guys are awesome. So see you guys next week for when we talk about Upgrade, and let us know about Solo and all your thoughts on everything down below. That is Joel. I am Chase. Peace out, everyone. You guys are awesome. Bye-bye.
Bye.